Hello and welcome to the Seattle Seahawks Syndicate. I am your host tonight, Brandon here, and I've got my guy Dan Viens here to my side. Of course, Seahawks Forever, Bryce Coutts from the Seahawks Eye, and Mookie Alexander, our man on the scene. Field Gulls is who he's representing, but he is down there right now. He is in the heart of enemy territory. He's fighting off shiv attacks from San Francisco 49er fans. I mean, if they shoot their own players in the streets, God can only know what they're going to do to Mookie down there. How's it going, gentlemen?
Oh, man, it's going great. The 49ers fans, for the most part, have been quite cordial, maybe because I repeatedly say, hey, I'm a Bay Area native. I used to live here 25 years ago. But, yeah, it's been a wild experience in terms of just the fan interaction stuff. The traffic is a complaint for media people, and justifiably so, to go from San Francisco. A lot of the media center and media activities are in San Francisco. The Seahawks press conference and the Patriots press conference are down in San Jose. And, like, the Patriots press conference starts at, like, 8 a.m. Pacific time. So,
Jeez.
I mean, you're having to go from way before sunset to get down there. And where I'm staying is right basically at the San Francisco Bay Bridge, and traffic is at a standstill at 5-something a.m. So, but nevertheless, a lot of Seahawks fans down here, as you would expect, all sorts of throwbacks. You can feel the anticipation starting to creep up as the days progress, because I know people have been talking about what kind of the slow burn, or there's just not as much anticipation, or it doesn't feel like Super Bowl week. I can assure you that if you come down here, if you go to Super Bowl experience, if you go to some other events in San Francisco and other parts of the Bay Area, there is very much anticipation that the Super Bowl is back here.
Well, I know with Mookie, you are on the scene there, able to look these players right dead in the eye and get a little bit of a vibe for them. I want to get a little bit of that, but first up, I want to hear where the nervous meter is currently set with Dan and Bryce. So, guys, as we do get closer, like he said, it's ramping on up. How you feeling out there, Dan? How's the fit? Show me the hand. Show me the hand. I want to see steadiness. I want to see shake. Come on. Okay, it's okay. There's a little baby shake there.
Today was kind of the day that I had that transition where I woke up and I was like, oh, damn, right? You start to hear all the counterpoints and about how good the Patriots defense has been in the playoffs, and Josh McDaniel, he's been there before and everything. And the logical side of my brain gets quiet, and I start to get emotional and I start to get worried. And then I saw Mookie's video of a certain rookie defender walking around without much of a limp. And suddenly I feel much, much better about Sunday.
That's good to hear. How about you, Bryce?
Well, I'm super steady, guys. I have ice in my veins. And to be honest, I think it's my coaching background, to be honest with you guys, that for me allows me to not let the emotional get involved sometimes. Because I know exactly what Dan's talking about. Before I got into coaching and really into it, I had the same thing. You'd go logical up to a point, and then that game's getting closer, and all of a sudden the nerves kick in, the butterflies, even as a player, those things kick in. When I hear the counterpoints, I should say, from our counterparts there in New England, it seems like they're grasping at anything they can to try and justify their being in the game, and their ability to play well in this game. And when I look at it, I go special teams. Seattle's got the edge. When even the Nick Eamon-Warry news came out about this defense, I went, we didn't have Nick for the first part of this season, and we still played good. You have Devin Witherspoon. We found out we have 3 safeties outside of Nick Eamon-Warry and Tyler Cotta, Kobe Bryant, Julian Love that can all handle that load. Tyrese Knight's healthy. Like, you have ways to kind of create what he does in the aggregate and still be a very successful defense. And so for me, I was like, that doesn't change. If we lose Nick Eamon-Warry for this game, I still am not afraid of that Patriot team, because they don't run a lot of 12 personnel really well. They don't do a lot of things really well. And we're still asking a quarterback under the age of 24 to go up against a defense, that he's never seen. And one point that for me that I thought was really interesting was the discussion of, I think Joel Klatt brought up, or Brock Hewitt brought it up to Joe Klatt on their 710 show. And he said, well, Seattle doesn't know what New England does. They don't have the familiarity that they do with the Rams and the Niners and stuff, because you see them, for Sam to play so well as he did down the stretch. And then the counterpoint Klatt made was, okay, sure, but Drake May has no experience playing against Mike McDonald. He didn't play against us last year in week 2 of the season. That was Jacoby Brissett. He's never seen a defense. Sure, you've seen Baltimore, but that isn't the Mike Macdonald defense and the full experience of it. And so when I kind of went back and looked at it, I went, yeah, no, I'm fine. I have no worries. Like, this team's going to go out. And I think, I asked Mookie, how's the team vibe there? And he says they're relaxed. This is what they've been just all year for, was this opportunity. Brandon, to answer your question, I have no worries, no nerves.
I love it. Confidence is brimming tonight on the Syndicate. You better believe that.
Up on cold medicine, right? So that's
yeah,
that's true. It may be the drugs, folks.
Yeah, he's playing injuries himself. So let's give it up.
Well, Mookie, I want to get some expansive thoughts from you here a little bit on a couple of quick items here as we look to and then do pivot to this game. I think you've got actually an update on the man that Dan just mentioned, that so many Seahawks fans were suddenly on the edge of their seats last night, ready to jump off of a cliff, worried to all get out. And as I understand it, you, like some international spy, snaked your way into the right angle, was able to crawl hands on knees, was able to dip around security, and got yourself a camera angle to get us some comfort at this hour.
Yeah, I love me some stealth video games, so I just stealthily recorded a certain Nick Eamon-Warry at the Seahawks media availability room walking to the podium, and when I noticed he didn't have an air cast on, wasn't using a wheelchair, wasn't on crutches, and wasn't struggling to put weight on his leg, I felt pretty confident that things were going to be okay. The tip for fans who don't know, if they have media availability for somebody who might be a little bit of an injury doubt, they're probably playing. And just 10 seconds of Nick Eamon-Warry walking in that big conference room down at the convention center in San Jose might have been one of the more popular tweets in the history of the Field Gulls account, including from some Patriots fans who think that Eamon-Warry is faking it. 49ers fans who are seemingly delighting in Eamon-Warry getting hurt. Enjoy Cancun, fellas. And then otherwise, Seahawks fans still panicking, like, oh, there's still a little bit of a limp. Look, these things happen. Almost everybody's playing through something. And Eamon-Warry with a low ankle sprain. McDonald didn't sound too worried at the press conference. He even opened up with a joke, as far as like, he didn't even wait for the first question to come before providing an update on Eamon-Warry. And as soon as he said fully expected him to play, I went, okay, fine. So that's the end of that. And haven't we been through this before with things we actually saw? So, like, obviously, other than the pool reporters being there, nobody else is allowed to attend Seahawks or Patriots practice. But we watched Gray Zabel go down in the first Rams game and thought, oh shit, this could be a significant knee injury. And then instead, he doesn't miss a beat. He plays the next week. So we've kind of been through this before. Ty Okada, I think at the Titans game the next week, hurt his oblique, didn't miss any time. So we've seen on more than a few occasions some Seahawks players either get hurt in practice or hurt in a game, and it looks like it could be concerning, and then it actually isn't. That's why the Zach Charbonnet thing kind of caught us all off guard, because we saw him on the bike, and then next thing you know, ACL tear. But for everybody else, from the guys we've seen in the game and to the guys on the practice field, like Sam Darnold, for example, Seattle's done a very good job in managing these injuries. And Eamon-Warry not practicing today is not a big deal. He I believe he went through walkthroughs. So it's the Super Bowl. So what more is he going to gain from an extra day of practice compared to the other 18, 19 weeks worth of practice he's done? So I think we can kind of calm ourselves down. The Cam Chancellor flashbacks were warranted at the time, but once we had more information, now everybody should just ease up.
Well, and we know he's going to play now. It's just how limited is he going to be? Because even just a sore sprained ankle can just, if it just takes a little bit of that explosiveness away from you. I mean, that's such a big part of Eamon-Warry's game. And so it'll be interesting to see strategically how McDonald handles the beginning of the game. Because, if he's out there, Josh McDaniels is going to try and pick on him and test him early. And I have a hunch that McDonald could figure out a way to kind of use that to his advantage.
Well, Dan's point on this, you'll learn a little bit of this with the snap counts. If we see them modifying or Witherspoon suddenly on the field and Eamon-Warry not out there and him at the slot, that in itself will be a little bit of an indicator to their lack of faith in where he's at with that ankle injury. Dan, you did mention on this that it's an injury that for us who have played a lot of basketball in our time, common injury you have is the rolling of the ankle. And when it initially happens, it gets dark and black and it looks horrible. And then what you happen as you go through and play basketball through those years, and I'm just saying casually here, not like you're doing serious, is you'll re-roll it. And Dan, there's a weird thing that happens when you have this re-roll kind of happen on an ankle that suffered it once before, isn't it? If you can kind of break that down a little bit.
Yeah, it just makes you think. It just enters into your thoughts, and it just, even just that split second of hesitation to go push off of it can, in a game of this magnitude, can mean everything. And that's why
I was meaning more what you're talking about prior to the stream about how it can feel bad in the moment, but then you get back into day 3 or 4 off of it in the recovery on it.
Yeah, and that's, we saw Mookie's video today versus the one of him getting out of the car, walking into the hotel last night. And, he was clearly limping there, but that's how those happen. The exact kind of injury you're describing, I'm remembering 3 or 4 of them in my basketball career when I was younger. And you go to bed that night thinking, should I have gone to the emergency room? Am I going to be able to walk on this thing tomorrow? And then, with these low ankle sprains, sometimes you wake up the next day and you're just fine. You're just absolutely fine. And let's hope that's the case and he feels good going into Sunday, because the tricky part about injuries like that is you can inject it, right? My fiance's a nurse, and that was the first thing she said. She said they'll shoot him up. The risk there, obviously, is if you can't feel the area, you can re-aggravate that real easy. You can go too hard on it, right? So I'm not worried about his ability to play. It's just, should he re-injure it at some time during the game? Now you're having to do that thing that we've seen a couple times this season where you have to adjust to losing one of your key players during a game. That's a whole different ball game than if we had gotten the news today that he's just not going to be able to play. That gives McDonald and his staff a couple more days to tweak the game plan.
Bryce, you concerned about the ability for him to be able to push and shove off, as Dan was speaking to there?
A little bit. Again, having played football, having done this injury myself as a quarterback, and having guys that are receivers and friends of mine that were DBs do it. The one thing they kept coming back to me, and when you have it happen, is you spat it, right? Tape it underneath and inside the cleat, and then they tape it on the outside, and it basically only allows you flex going up and down. It does not allow your ankle to go sideways. And so I'd ask them, hey, are you going to be good to go? Are you going to be able to go in and out of your breaks? And they'd be, yeah, as long as I can push down and come out of it, I'm fine. I don't need the flexibility left and right to turn or anything. I just need to be able to get my foot in the ground, get my on top of the balls of my feet, and drive out of it. I think for Nick and what they ask him to do in this defense, he isn't flipping his hips a whole lot. He's not playing corner. He's basically a lateral defender and coming downhill, which I think for him in the ankle injury, he should be okay. And they probably will shoot him up with Tortorol before the game anyways, just to err on the side. It may not be a full dose, but it'll be something just to help him along and help manage that if it is a problem. But you got to think, happened last night. He was walking okay today. He's not going to practice today or tomorrow. They said he's going to go through walkthrough, which we know they don't really do anything. Tomorrow, he's going to probably just be getting treatment the whole day. And the game's not till 3:00 in the afternoon on Sunday. He'll get treatment all morning. So he shouldn't have effects for 4 to 5 hours in that game. Speaking of another injury, though, guys, I want to kind of, just talk about a little bit is I heard Drew Lock talk about the oblique injury today. I can't remember who interviewed him, but basically asked the question, what's it like to play quarterback with the oblique injury? And we heard all the doctors talk about it, but listening to an actual professional quarterback who's had a similar injury, he even mentioned he had it last year. What Sam is doing and what Sam has been able to do through these playoffs and how Drew expressed what Sam's injuries is like in comparison to his, I think we're talking about a quarterback that is maybe putting on one of the gutsiest performances in playoff history with what he is dealing with and how he is playing.
Just want to note with Darnold, this is the first time in a while I can recall him being a full participant in practice. So it seems like they're not holding him back. And this is for a Thursday practice, so I assume he'd be full go again on Friday. Whether he's limited or full doesn't really matter to me. But yeah, Darnold clearly has got a fairly significant injury. The fact that they're still having to manage it 3 weeks on now tells you something, but he has gutted through it. In a way, injury management worked itself out in the 49ers game because he hardly had to throw. And then against the Rams, he very much had to throw, or else I would not be here right now. Or maybe I would be here, but I would be the biggest Patriots fan in the world for a weekend.
And one more thing I'm going to worry too, you guys, is
really quick, because it's from the comments here. If you can get your mic just a little close to your face or turn up the volume, Mookie, on your end. A couple people mentioned in the chat there.
Yeah, let me see if this mic volume is a little bit better. Obviously, I'm not using my normal setup,
That's better.
That's better. There we go.
That looks
Okay.
good. Sounds good. And I was
go
just
ahead, Dan.
about Amenawari. The advantage to a low ankle sprain too is they can tape the crap out of that thing, and they can basically lock that thing down there, so there's hardly any flexion, and it'll be a little stiff for him, but he'll get used to it and should be able to go.
So we got Nick okay, got all of our starters basically offensively and defensively, maybe save for Robbie Utes. We'll see how that one goes once we get live with that. But I would like to hear from you, Mookie, as kind of a free form as far as your thoughts on this, because I think that there's nothing like being able to be in front of a team right now in this moment where they're at. And yeah, they can give you stuff conversationally. I would tend to feel like, as Bryce was talking about, your feelings of what you're telling them, feeling relaxed. It's more of maybe a vibe feeling you get from the team. Can you just give us maybe some of your thoughts on being down there around them and what you're getting from them in that respective things, whether it's, hey, locked in, or, well, I'm a little worried, or I sense a chink in the armor, or, something like that.
Well, from a couple of the players I spoke to, including Tawakata, it's really just like treat it like any other game. Don't create extra nerves. Don't create any sort of extra pressure on yourself. And I think that they are going to try and play this game like it's as close to pressure-free as possible. It's natural. There is going to be pressure for both teams because it's the freaking Super Bowl, everybody. But nevertheless, just watching the media availability session. So for just a little inside baseball, there's one room on the side of the convention center where you see it on TV, the McDonald and Darnold pressers. And then there's a separate room where all the players, the 10 players on the Seahawks side with a podium for media scrums, and then there are tables, smaller tables for generally one-on-one interviews. So you get to see everybody. Even the practice squad players were there. And I don't know if that's the same for New England. Of course, I didn't go to the Patriots press conferences, but you saw guys like Ricky White there. And Montori Foster has been on injured reserve for weeks. And Shaquille Griffin was there too. So you just hear a lot of laughter, a lot of conversation. Yeah, I know some players are on their phones and just idling by and waiting until practice starts because, look, not everybody wants to talk to the media, let alone do it multiple times a week, getting asked the same questions over and over again. But still, you see guys shadow boxing. You see guys trying to just play around. I saw Jake Bobo trying to dribble a soccer ball a bit because Cliff Averill was there doing some sort of interview that I didn't catch because it was time for me to head back to San Francisco. But the Seahawks team is not lazing around. I think they are most certainly locked in, but they don't want to make the occasion a little more serious than it has to be.
Does the vibe, and again, I'm asking you to kind of reach into something that's not necessarily something like exactly to pinpoint you, and I want you to go outside of what you're necessarily hearing from them as far as verbally goes. Really on what are you getting as you stand in front of these guys collectively? Is it a unit locked in for their championship right now? Is it a unit that I don't sense a lot of difference from other football teams I've been around in this moment? There's a sense of intensity at play that I can feel. You can feel I'm kind of trying to probe around for that sense, because this is the thing that I would be looking for or kind of just sensitive to, I think, in this environment. I speak probably for Bryce and Dan in the same way. If you guys can add on to this, if I'm not maybe articulating that way, but like, is there something you're getting from them one way or the other on that?
Oh, the vibes seem overwhelmingly positive. I mean, you could tell which players are jokesters. Devin Witherspoon's definitely a jokester. His podium, for some reason, only had one interviewer toward the end there. And then suddenly, like, he made some joke that got the guy to laugh. But I think that things are trending very much in a positive attitude, positive direction that makes this team, I think it kind of typifies the idea that the Seahawks are connected, they're loose, but it's not loose in the sense that they're going to play sloppily or be sloppy on the field, but just that they're relaxed. And I think that's always a key when you're in such a big game.
Yeah, is it so? Do you come away around them then thinking we got this game more, or neutral to what it was walking in, or do you feel a little bit like, well, it's gonna be a little bit tighter, just on that sort of same area?
I guess I wish I could have been at the New England or media availabilities to kind of do a little comparison point, but otherwise, I'm fairly confident that the Seahawks are going to get this done, and that when it's time to lock in, when it's time to stay focused on football, they're going to do exactly that.
I love it. So I think overall, collectively, we're getting a lot of confidence from the rest of my syndicate guys in here, which is really good to hear. Let's pivot this a little bit forward if we can a bit, unless Mookie, there was any else little tidbit you might have had in there that you want to, make sure you cover within this. And we can start to kind of maybe just unpack a little bit, maybe of a game plan here that we'd like to see from this team for the ultimate success this upcoming Sunday. Let's start out with a little bit of offense if we can. Bryce, we'll go Bryce kind of to Dan with this a little bit, back around to you, Mookie, and let's kind of build up just a couple of things that you want to see. It can be, again, doesn't have to be exactive. It's got to be A, B, C, D, E. It can be a little bit of this needs to be brought in, that needs to be brought in, of what we feel like is the way that the offense needs to operate. There's, everybody, I'm sure you guys are hearing, there's a lot of this push now with the Patriot defense being an unstoppable rebel force when it comes to stopping the run right now.
Ever so far.
It's Steelers 78 mixed with Ravens late 2000s, Dan, right? Something like that. Just creating like the Power Rangers of run defense. It's just the full thing. So I guess, how do we get around that, Bryce? How do we get around this monstrous run defending front?
I don't know if we can, guys. I think we got to just pack up our bags and fly back up to Seattle, because we shouldn't even play the game at this rate. Like, come on. No, in my opinion, like Dan and Brandon, as you guys found out, like, I love watching film. I like being very detailed with it, as when we were in Mobile. I've gone back now the last few days and really dove into what the Patriots run defense looks like. And I've keyed on a couple games. I keyed on the Denver game because they were kind of successful in that one. The Ravens game, they struggled in that first half. Brandon, you and me saw that. They could not stop outside zone. And then I've gone back and I've watched a few other matchups, especially when Buffalo and James Cook went off and had their comeback victory late in the season. And the biggest thing is tempo. If you watch those teams when they get successful is tempo running the ball, which means they are running quicker to the line. They're running quick snaps. They're not letting them get sub packages. They're not letting them get a line, and they trap them. And this is the problem for New England. Like, they do a good job when they have their personnel on the field. But when they don't, and Harold Landry stuck out there being your run-setting edge, it causes problems. So what I want to see from Seattle's offense, I think one of the key things is who's spotting the personnel subs for them, being on top of that for Clint, and giving Sam a little bit of freedom where Sam's got his two calls, and one of them is basically like, hey, we may run into the boundary on this as an automatic kill call because of how they're aligned and who's out there. And now once we've trapped them, we're going to run 5 plays in a row with them trapped in that sub package. The other thing I want to see is get Rashid Shaheed involved deep again. They don't have a corner that can cover him speed for speed. Get him his shot play, where now a Christian Gonzalez is worried about getting taken over the top potentially. And you saw that Denver was able to do it with Jared Stidham in the AFC Championship game, right? Like, those are things you can do. And if they want to try and take JSN away bracketing him, just feed AJ Barner and Cooper Kupp. And again, it all starts with Seattle on running the football. They've got to run the football. They've got to be successful in it. And that doesn't mean K9 goes for 175 yards on the ground, but it means K9's getting 5 yards a carry, 4 yards a carry, and sprinkling in the George Halani and the AJ Barner in the pass game, I think, are some of the key ways to do that.
What about you, Dan? What, beyond kind of running and definitely using some of that outside zone that there's been some susceptibility to with this defense of the Patriots, what would be some of the individual approaches you'd look for from this offense?
Well, I sat and watched those same games with you. We watched the Bills game and the Ravens game because we thought, late in the season, it would give us a good indicator of how they stack up against the run. And, we saw it. We saw James Cook just get 5 yards at a time, outside zone, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. And, I was surprised to see that, I don't like dropping names. We all know who Warren Sharp is, right? Like, he's considered one of the bigger name guys out there when it comes to analytics, right? And advanced stats. He has his own company, Sharp Analytics. And he tweeted something the other day that I don't know where it came from, but he referred to the Patriots as the best run defense in the league.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And I went scrambling to try, am I wrong? Have I missed something? Clearly what he did is he looked at current stats. If you go to ESPN-NFL.com, it'll just show you what's happened in the playoffs. That's it. And they're giving up 85 yards on the ground or something like that in the playoffs. That's impressive. But when you go back and you look, you see, well, it's not a Mario Hampton. It's Kamani Vidal for the Chargers behind a banged up offensive line, missing their 2 tackles. It's RJ Harvey in a snowstorm, right? It's Woody Marks, who's more of a third down pass catching back. It's not some of the better. And then you go back and you look, because Patriots fans will tell you it's all because Milton Williams missed some games in December, right?
That's what Warren said too.
Because the last 5 regular season games, they gave up an average of 133 yards rushing per game, which would have put them 30th in the league if you extrapolated that over a whole season. And when you go back and you match up his game log and the games he missed versus, it's not all the games that he's out, right? Like, they gave it their run defense started to go south week 10 Tampa went for 113 on him. The Jets went for 140. Cincinnati 120. The Giants 111. Buffalo 168. This is what we're talking about now. This is with Williams out. 168, 171 to the Ravens, 164 to the Jets again. I don't care if Milton Williams is in there or not. They just don't have enough talent across the front for Clint Kubiak to not be able to find a chink in that armor at some point. Even if it starts off slowly, they'll figure out where the soft spots are, and they'll be able to get their running yardage.
100% agreed. And one of the beautiful parts about Kubiak is, he's always got the commitment. That part's always something that with other past OCs we might have had to worry about, but he's going to bring that and eventually keep hammering away to find that chink that you just mentioned. Mookie, anything that's what you see with this team offensively that you think is very, or maybe even say vitally important that they make sure that they execute this upcoming Sunday?
Just keep the play action game going. And by the way, I know people are talking about my mic, so am I sounding good right now?
You sound fine right now.
Okay, perfect. See, what happened is I got my hair cut a couple days before leaving, and that means having to put this headset on and readjust. It happens with my old headset too. I kind of forget where to actually place the mic, so that's kind of what we're dealing with here. But anyway, if the play action game stays sharp, and as long as they're not playing from a significant deficit that takes away play action, and there's no reason to believe that happens because it just hasn't happened all year, I think that the Patriots are going to have a hard time figuring out what to stop. And absent the play action thing, I believe that getting Kenneth Walker involved more in the passing game has opened up this offense. And I'm not talking about, hey, Sam's checking it down to Charbonnet when he was healthy, or checking it down to Kenneth Walker and making him move in open space. No, that's not what's happening. We're seeing Kenneth Walker in actual routes, being utilized out in the flat, being utilized on screen plays. And how long have we been clamoring for a screen pass to actually gain yards, and especially the running back screens that have been legendarily bad for the Seahawks. And they've been able to get that synced up finally. Better late than never. So I think that for the Seahawks offense, I do agree that Rashid Shaheed should get involved earlier. I did have a chance to speak with Shaheed for a few minutes, and we didn't really address too much in terms of his role as a receiver, but he did say that it didn't take too long for him and Sam Darnold to start basically having good chemistry, and we're not seeing it in the stat sheet necessarily, but I think that pass to Shaheed in the NFC Championship game, hopefully that's a spark for something, and that we get to see him involved more. And also, we did see him, like 3 games in, tear up the Atlanta Falcons, and then also have 2 critical catches against the Indianapolis Colts on that game-winning drive. So it's there. Seattle is still ultimately a low-volume passing team, but if they're going to sell out to stop JSN, that's going to be a golden opportunity for Shaheed. It's going to be a golden opportunity for Cooper Kupp as well. And I'm curious to see what happens with the with the slot corner situation. It was Marcus Jones, who's basically their Rashid Shaheed, but for defense, because he's an amazing returner, and he's a very much a prominent slot corner, but he's also a guy who can get beat quite a bit. And I'm wondering how often they're going to be mismatch hunting. And Jones is a bit of a gambler at times, and I think that's if the gamble it doesn't succeed, we're going to see some explosive plays against this Patriots team. So I'm pretty confident that the Seahawks offense can get this done. To me, the game is pretty much decided on whether or not the Seahawks offense can just stay functioning and stay ahead of schedule. The only bad outcome to me is if they are in 3rd and long too often, or 2nd and 13, 2nd and 14. They've been getting better at that lately, getting out of 2nd and 20 jams, getting out of 3rd and long jams. But the Patriots are very good at defending 3rd and long. Seattle's still on the season not been great at converting 3rd and long. They've gotten better lately, but I don't want to keep living in that.
No, you don't do well offensively across the board in the NFL when you tend to be finding yourself in those positions, nor convert 3rd downs very well, separate of us being good at it or not. One thing I wanted to ask you, Bryce, if you saw the same on the tape, and the recent tape that I watched on this with this defense of the Patriots, is I was surprised by how it, compared to the Mike McDonald defense, where there feels like a lot more post-snap flow in what they're doing and a lot more pre-snap hiding, I feel like I can really be able to tell if I'm a quarterback with this New England safety set who's going to be coming down prior to the snap, that I'm getting a guy shuffling on down a little bit, telling Sam a little bit more about what the coverage is prior to the snap. Can you speak on that?
Yeah. So part of it for me, when I look at them doing that, Brandon, is they don't have the athletes in the back end like we do. Like you got Kobe Bryant, Julian Love that are pretty good athletes and can move around and make up if they make a mistake. When you don't have that, you kind of look at that secondary and I go, there's not really a great athlete in that secondary. They're all good. Like I'm not saying they're not good athletes, but to the point of what I'm trying to get at is when you're able to disguise and do things like that as a defense, it's because guys have what you call makeup speed. They can make up for the mistake and get themselves back into position. When I look at the Patriots, they don't have that. So if I want to be late mugging a safety down, or I want to use him as a free hitter and roll him, to your point, like I want to roll my boundary safety down into the box late, I can't do that because I don't know if my field safety is going to get over top by the time they see that and run that seam. So I almost need to do that early so that way for a quarterback, like you said, I can easily pick that up. But now I'm in, as a defense, in their mind, a better position to handle your check rather than you catching us in a late or bad rotation because we try and do it. We don't have the athletic ability to get there at the right time, and you take advantage of it.
Yeah, I think that's where there could be a little telltale for Sam and some of the defenses we played this year that have done a little bit better, job at hiding that stuff and making it harder post snap. Like the Rams, I think, do a much better job of this. And I was just kind of wondering if you were seeing the same thing with that on the tape. Dan, if you get a Vrabel coming into this game, one of the concepts I've been trying to turn over in my mind and to think about how you can anticipate this, because Vrabel is very smart. He's not going to leave any stone unturned. And you just can't help but think that he's going to walk into this game with a little bit of sense of desperation. He sees all of the same things out here that we're all seeing. No matter what kind of faith he has in his team, he understands how early he is in the process of just getting his guys in the building. If he brings up the big stack boxes here and he just says, I'm taking the run game away, is it you say, hey, well, we're going where you're light, and you take your shots down the field at that point and say, look, the plan is, you guys, it's all well articulated, is to try to run the ball and stay committed to that. But at the same point in time, if it goes back to sort of early front of the schedule season strat, if that makes sense, for how defenses were playing us, do you lean into that? Say, hey, bombs away. We got the dudes to do it.
100%. And I think that's something that we've seen from Kubiak in the second half of the season, is his ability to adjust quicker and to be able to kind of go with the ebbs and flows of a game. And I think, in a game of this magnitude, especially early when everyone's a little nervous and the crowd's kind of still buzzing and everything isn't settled in, the lights and the whole pregame show takes forever. It's, sometimes those first few minutes can be kind of tight, and you can be susceptible in those moments to maybe an explosive shot. And so, I love the idea of taking them early. And in particular, in studying this matchup over the last couple of days, and then thinking back on some of the conversations we had in Mobile when we were watching tape, is I think those middle linebackers are vulnerable. And you can see it from the stats. I think the Patriots are 30th in the league defensively at defending the middle of the field. It's a real Achilles heel of theirs. And you in particular were talking about Jelani Tavai. And he's technically a backup. He rotates in, but if he's on the field, you said to us the other day when we were watching one of their games, you said, 48's on the field, you throw his way. Like that's an area that they're vulnerable. I'm also really curious to see what they're going to do with Christian Gonzalez early in this game, because one of the things we know about him is he doesn't travel. Maybe he will now, but are you going to do that when he's not used to doing it? Or are you going to do that now in the biggest game on the biggest stage? Or are you going to leave him to that side and leave Carlton Davis on the other side? Now, Carlton Davis had a nice year. He was a really nice free agency signing for them. But I'd probably throw at Davis to 9 times out of 10 rather than throw towards Gonzalez way. So absolutely, that's what I'm looking to do. And if I'm Clint Kubiak, I'm looking for signs of that early. Like if I can see the first couple of times I try to run the football that they're on it, taking a shot.
This is the other thing I'll add to that, Dan. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
No, you're good, Bryce. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to your point, Dan, about them defending the middle of the field, this is the one thing I noticed also, and Brandon, I want to get your thoughts, and Dan, yours, watching the film. Their linebackers spot dropping is bad. Like, they do not get a good job of getting to depth in pass situations, and watching teams hit that deep 15-yard in or that 12 to 15-yard kind of post sit route has been an Achilles heel for this Patriots pass defense this year, where quarterbacks come out of the play action. You watch Josh Allen do it, and it got them back in that game in a lot of ways. In the one they won, is hitting those deep kind of in sit routes in behind those linebackers, because you see the Patriots try and play match sometimes in cover 3 or even in cover 4 match, but they struggle because, again, players are not athletic enough to collapse on those in breaks hard enough, and their linebackers don't get to the right depth. it's a really interesting thing to watch, because I think that's something Kubiak with a JSN or a Shahid is going to take advantage of, is getting them in behind there. And it's like, now you're stuck because your safeties aren't good enough athletes to be able to cheat down and collapse that earlier, because they have to stay back because they're terrified of you going over the top.
Yeah, I think you have a defensive-minded head coach in Brable that fits to certain archetypes, and one of those archetypes is going to be that I'm going to take the run way first. Not I will limit your pass first, but I'll limit the run. So what happens is you have two linebackers, to your point, that are not the grade A athletic. This isn't Roquan Smith and Patrick Queen with the Ravens a couple years ago. So there are already guys that are going to struggle to kind of recover. And then you're telling them at the forefront of their mind to get up on top of the run game first and foremost. Take those 2 false steps downhill to the run and anticipate that first and foremost. We come back around to Mookie with saying, lean to the play action in this game. And that's why this, I think, is going to be so important, because those in-cutting routes are the things that are going to open up on that backside. And because they give you this single high, they're going to tell you where the safety is going to go that's coming down prior to the snap, not post-snap. They'll let him know. You can really be able to anticipate that cover 3 look as you get it at times. We've seen what happens, don't we, when you get a quarterback who can recognize cover 3 from back in the Carroll days there. And what happens with that is, if you recognize it, there are so many routes, especially running any kind of option route stuff, that you're able to just eat all day if they're living that way and stay in that kind of style of defense for them. Mookie, did you have something else you wanted to add on that?
Just one thing when it comes to the offense and just what they can do against New England. Speed kills. And I've been kind of complaining about this for a while with the Seahawks, and now it's my dream has been realized. Seattle has got the speed edge. So subtract Cooper Kupp, and then you got to deal with Kenneth Walker, Rashid Shaheed, and Jackson Smith-Njigba may not be lightning fast, but he's certainly quick, and he's capable of winning down the field. So you have to respect Shaheed's speed over the top. So, and the Rams obviously didn't do it on one play and got burned for it. And then when they tried to take away Shaheed at the back of the end zone on the throw to Cooper Kupp for a touchdown, well, they're shading to Shaheed's side. Guess what? There's a little route underneath in the zone where Kupp is open and he can just get yards after catch for a touchdown because the other guys are too far back to catch up in time. So you have to deal with those 2 receivers in addition to what Walker can do out of the backfield. And I think that New England's got a lot of talented defenders, no doubt about it. I think one of their draft steals is Craig Woodson. I think he came out of is either Kentucky or Cal.
Cal.
It was Cal.
Cal.
Yes. So I think they got a lot of talented defenders, and that could be a legitimately great defense soon. But their advanced stats are kind of weird because they're, I believe, 23rd in DVOA, but some of their other stats are more favorable, and just in traditional stats, they're 4th in points allowed. But DVOA does account for opponent schedule and opponent strength, and they've played a very soft schedule. So I believe that Kubiak knows how to exploit a defense that is just athletically inferior, and I can see them using JSN again, motioning him out of the backfield again, maybe trying to get him matched up with a linebacker that way instead of the traditional, let's run mesh, let's get a linebacker on him on a crosser. I mean, he's found so many creative ways to get JSN open that I don't think New England's going to be immune to that. And whether Spillane plays or not, and Spillane's definitely a good player, I don't think that they're going to be able to keep up with Seattle's receivers in terms of defending zones, and certainly against the tight ends. I also favor the Seahawks offense, especially if they do get A.J. Barner involved. Barner told me that he is expecting a big game this weekend, but he didn't specify if it meant a bunch of catches or if he was just going to pancake fools in the run game.
He said yes. Dan, I kept coming back over and over. We talked about last week. I haven't been knocked off my glance with this. You're Clint Kubiak. You're walking into this game. You're trying to anticipate the unanticipatable. You've got to believe that there's going to be a heavy amount of bracket coverage coming to JSN in how you put this game plan together.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think, we've been talking about Rashid Shaheed for weeks, and we were all so happy when we saw the early hit to him in the NFC Championship game. But I just keep coming back. The more I look at this game and think about this game, and especially talking about what we just did in the middle of the field, is I think if Clint Kubiak could give us a parting gift on his way out the door, is have a big tight end game. Like we've seen A.J. Barner come up with some big plays here and there in crucial moments. I'd like to see Elijah Arroyo active for this game, right? He's had a month now of practice to get reincorporated back in the offense. He offers something nobody else in that tight end room does, in the ability, you match him up against one of those guys. You have Tavai on Elijah Arroyo. I'm saying run the 9, right? Like just get him down the seam, get him deep. I just feel like the tight ends can be such a huge weapon in this. But I'm not shying away from the run either. Just if they're slowing it down early, just because I think, Milton Williams is a good player, Christian Barmore's a good player, but those outside linebackers they have in that 3-4 that they kind of play, like those guys, Splain's 225, I think Landry's 235. I mean, those guys, I think we're just better physically, and I think if we line up in 12 personnel, we can just run these guys over on the edge.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that. Let's get a couple of the donations we got here in the chat. Make sure we're not getting too far behind on these. Megan, thank you for being a member of the channel. Appreciate you for that. I think on my side here, Peter, on one of your guys's with a $2 dono. Thank you for that. He says, I'm betting the odds went up on Nick E for MVP. Yeah, probably a little bit on that one after that, huh?
The voters always like the story, right? And I've kind of been set on this default that if Sam has a good game, right? If he goes 303 touchdowns, even if 200 of those and 2 touchdowns are to JSN, I kind of feel like the award goes to Sam because all the focus is on him pregame, right? Well, now the story is, Emin Wari was probably a good candidate to start with anyway. I think he's in the top 4 or 5 as far as Vegas is concerned, or at least he was before the injury news. But because he makes so many splash plays and dynamic plays, those are the kinds that can win you MVP. Malcolm Smith knows that. Larry Brown knows that. But I think especially knowing that they're coming in banged up, if he has a sack and a pick and a fumble recovery and 9 tackles, he's probably the MVP because of that.
Yeah, especially if the offense kind of just balanced between the rushing attack and the passing attack on that. So, yep, you're definitely right about that one there, Peter. Ethan, Tech World, thank you for the $5 donation. It says, what up, crew? A thought experiment. The trajectory of this team from 2018 onwards, if Paul Allen was still with us. Go Hawks. Let's take this game. Bryce, would this team be in a different place with Paul Allen? Would this team have already hoisted a Lombardi Trophy if Paul Allen was still with us?
I think so. Because one thing about Paul Allen that we knew was after 2017, he kind of put Pete on the hot seat in a way. There was that report going into that last game of the season that we missed the playoffs, the Blair Walsh season, as I always call it, the Blair experiment, that Pete may be retiring or that Pete had to literally get rid of his staff and retool it all. And I think if Paul had seen what had happened even after that retooling of how kind of stagnant it had gotten, Pete might have been gone sooner, and we might even have a different coach than Mike McDonald potentially. But I think we would have potentially had the opportunity at another Super Bowl earlier. Who knows? Maybe he goes out and hires, one of these other whiz guys before, like a Zach Taylor or Kevin O'Connell, or we may have ended up with an offensive-minded head coach at that point. Who knows? But I do think Paul Allen was not one to sit by and just watch the team kind of just stay in purgatory. He was going to push that envelope and get results.
Yeah, the thing, there, Brandon, but the thing with Paul Allen is he wasn't going to spare even established coaches. Like Mike Holmgren, it's often forgotten, got essentially fired as GM. So he could only be the head coach. Mm-hmm. And even entering the 2005 season, the 2004 season was kind of a mess. For them to start 3-0 and then collapse to 9-7, blow leads in preposterous ways against the Rams, against the Cowboys, lose the playoff game the way they did against the Rams. They barely won the division on the last day of the season against a Falcons team that was playing backups. So Holmgren was kind of sort of under the gun entering 2005, and everything just broke beautifully for Seattle to make their first ever Super Bowl. And even when Paul Allen owned the Blazers, he was very impatient with those head coaches. Like Mike Dunleavy regularly made the NBA playoffs and made deep playoff runs, and he got fired anyway. And the last time the Blazers made the conference finals was in 2019. He almost fired the head coach at the time, Terry Stotts, the year before because they gotten swept for a second straight year, even though they were a regular playoff team. So I don't think Carroll would have been immune to that on the Seahawks side of things. But I would say that had Carroll been gone and Paul was still alive, Paul's historically gone big game hunting with his coaches. Whether that's Dennis Erickson or Holmgren, Morrow was basically a hand-picked successor, but he had experience as an NFC Championship game coach with the Falcons. It's that stupid-ass comment that he made on KJR about, hey, if I could take the Huskies job, I'd gladly take it, or whatever he said. But anyway, and then he goes after Pete Carroll. So in a world where Carroll is out and Paul's still alive, I think he would have gone for a big time head coach instead of the up and coming, next mastermind, if you will.
Yeah, and
Dan,
I remember that report. It was Jay Glazer who reported that Pete Carroll might be on the hot seat, and that if he was, and at the time that the report came out that he might be thinking about stepping away from the game, Paul Allen was away on a trip. He was in a safari or something like that halfway across the world, right? And so Glazer comes out with this report, and he says, he used exactly your words. He said, if they move on from Pete Carroll or Pete Carroll decides to retire, he's going to go big game hunting. And he has a list that he's had for years. And that list, I'll never forget it. It was Bill Cowher, who was out of the game at the time. It was Nick Saban, and it was Jim Harbaugh. Like, those were the three guys that Allen would have had. So I think you might be right. It's a great question. It's a really fun thought experiment. I don't think Pete would have lasted until 2024. And even if he did, and Paul was still with us, Mike McDonald might not be the guy. He might have hired Mike Vrabel, because he was honestly, when Pete was first let go, he was the first guy that I wanted. I thought he was the best coach that was available at the time. I didn't know enough about Mike McDonald at the time, but he might be our coach, or he might have waited a year. Maybe Mike McCarthy would be. I don't know that the Paul Allen that we remember would have signed off on hiring such a young coach without experience.
Yeah, especially a team with no playoff wins since 2017, or one playoff win since 2017. And I think he would have really held that up to the light and been like, can't roll with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Jody just wasn't sure, and she wanted to be sure, I think, if she moved on in that way from Pete. But great question there, Ethan Tech World. Peter with another 5 or 0 worries from this 12. 38-12 Hawks.
Ooh.
Pats and their fans are going to be having a dark side nightmares for the next year. Hashtag blowout revenge. Go Hawks.
Is that 4 field goals, or do we get another Super Bowl safety?
I think we get another Super Bowl safety.
They would
Well,
have.
they would have the safety.
Well,
and
based on some of that, is what we saw the first half of the season when we were backed up in our own end zone.
We're not great.
Yeah.
We're not great in the
Let's
shadow of
not
our own
do
end
that.
zone.
Hey,
It's
except
not
for
our-
the NFC Championship game, guys, we did get out of the shadow of our end zone
We did,
without
and
drop back passes.
We iced
We
the
ran
game.
the ball.
Same
That's
in the
true.
San Francisco NFC West title game.
The
At
Tampa
their
Bay
own 2
game,
after the Drake Thomas pick, they were able to run pretty much most of the clock out, such that even Jason Myers missing the field goal didn't matter.
All right, it's not a concern anymore. It's in the past.
Yeah. Like all things, we've overcome all of it.
That's
We've
right.
overcome it all, I tell you. But thank you, Peter. Very, very kind of you, man. Savage has been waiting on this one for a bit, so I know that we usually are going to wait till the end on this, but I know that he's had to wait for a while for this, and he wanted our predictions on this. We're going to still talk a little bit about this defense and what the game plan needs to be on that side of the ball. But gentlemen, we're all confident. People can see which way the winds are blowing on in here. So let's go from Bryce counterclockwise back around here again. Let's get the score predictions.
31-17 Hawks. That's my score prediction in this game. I think
Let's
the Hawks
go.
just I got a feeling this game may be close in the first half. Like, it may be, 17-10 Seattle at the end of the first half, and it's a 1-score game. And then Seattle does what they've done all year in the second half. They make their adjustments, and they go off in the second half of that game. And the Patriots get 1 touchdown, but the Hawks double up on them, and it's 31-17 at the end of the Super Bowl, and Seattle gets their second Lombardi Trophy, and we go for 2 for 2 in Super Bowls.
Ooh, I like this. Mookie.
So remember, at the end of the third quarter, Super Bowl 49, and the score was Seahawks 24, Patriots 14. I don't remember what happened after that. I think they stopped the game for some reason. There was some like locusts came in through.
Men in black. Boop.
Yep. So I think it'll be basically around that score, 24-14. I do think that the Patriots could disrupt Seattle's offense if Williams and Barmore are too much for Sundell, Zabel, and Bradford to handle. And if that does happen, then interior pressure is probably going to at least make Darnold put in some uncomfortable spots, even though he has made a lot of big-time throws under pressure these last few weeks. But I don't see the Patriots consistently moving the ball against the Seahawks defense. Could they get a turnover, a cheap turnover that gives them a short field? I guess they could, but Seattle's been clean the last 3 weeks with takeaways, with giveaways. So I think that it's going to be one of those where it's 24-14, and yet maybe New England gets the last touchdown of the game.
Dan, we got 2 comfy wins. 2 nice. I'm warming the sun. I'm warming the winter. I got my fire roaring here in front of me. I got my mittens on. Are you going to complete the process on this one?
The
'Cause
longer
I'm not shying away.
the longer I sit here, the more comfortable I get, right? I talked at the top about how nervous I am. I'm becoming less and less nervous. I think at the end of the day, there's just talent wins in the NFL. You know, the late, great John Clayton used to call it a talent acquisition league. And I just think the Seahawks from top to bottom on their roster are so much more talented. And even, you know, you've seen a lot of interviews this week with like other great players from around the league, other coaches, people who live and breathe football and know it at a very advanced level. And they all say the same thing. They're just like, there's no weakness. There's no Achilles heel on this Seahawks team. And I also think the path, as impressed as I am at what the Patriots did going into Denver in those conditions and beating that defense, right? I just think that the path to get here for the Seahawks, basically after having to win the NFC West twice in the last 7 or 8 weeks against those two teams, who I think are the second and third best teams in the NFL. And then I'd probably put the Patriots after that, or maybe right there with the 49ers. It's just a gauntlet that they didn't have to go through. And I think the Seahawks are more ready for this game. I think maturity, just emotionally, they're ready. I think the veteran leadership is something they have an edge. And so I've got 34-13. I think it's going to be one of those games where early on, like, hey, it looks like the Patriots might have a shot. Josh McDaniel is outstanding at what he does. He's been here before. He just won Assistant Coach of the Year. So Clinton Kubiak will not win that in his 1 year in Seattle. And then they'll have some things to throw at us, and then we'll adjust. And then as the game gets into the second half and gets deeper into it, I think we've taken the run away. Now we have a lead. Now this defense can really go after this young quarterback who's extremely talented. I'm very high on this kid, but I think he's going to see some things and feel some things on Sunday that he's never had to experience before. And I think it's going to be one of those things where we just kind of pull away and put it away.
I can't add a lot on top of what you guys did, and I'm not going to change course from where you guys are at with the same thing on this. I think there's those stats we've got that you can put up that are supplemental to all the things you guys spoke to. Mike McDonald and what he's done to quarterbacks 24 years or younger, plus Max Brosmer over the last 2 years, which has been sheer and utter domination. The fact that this team hasn't given up a 100-yard rusher in, 29 straight games, that they haven't allowed that. And that's really one of the main pathways New England needs, absolutely desperately needs in order to go get this win. And then you even have Mike McDonald with, 6-0 off of bye weeks over the last 3 years as well. And what are you giving him? A bye week to prepare for this. And it makes sense as to why he's good at that, as I've often said in the past, because of the complex nature of the defense you run, and because it can go really, really complex, the more time he has to build and put that game plan together. So I am right along with you guys on this 27-17, but I'm still right. I'm wanting to go the same place you got at 31-17 or 31-13. You could convince me of that very easily on this one. I've been fighting the urge, gentlemen, almost like I'm a player trying to control my own emotions to don't get too overconfident. Why? Because I'm going to be on the field and, I'm not going to be turned it all the way up. But that's almost from that spirit. I don't know about you guys on that, but that little bit of that spirit's been driving to me like, calm yourself now. It's still the Super Bowl. But man, just every angle you look at in this thing, it's hard not to walk away and just think that this is going to be a victory and not an easy one, but a relatively easy one at that.
I think Drake May's going to have to play the game of his life to win.
Yeah,
that means
absolutely.
I mean, he's an outstanding deep ball passer, and Seattle, unfortunately, where this secondary is different from the Legion of Boom, they can be had on some of those outside the numbers deep shots. But if May doesn't have time to get the ball down there, then they've got themselves a problem. So I think that's as good as the Patriots' offense has been in the regular season. I believe that some of these shortcomings in the playoffs are not because of the weather. They weren't great against the Chargers either. And I think that defensive line for Seattle is way, way too much for the Patriots' offensive line to handle.
And I'm going to add something to what Mookie just said about Drake May and his deep ball. It's fine and dandy. And Brandon, we saw this watching the tape in Mobile. When he's got single high coverage and he knows where he can go with it because it's real easy to determine, great. He did it in the Denver game for a little bit when he got his opportunities. He did it in the Chargers games. But once teams roll that too high shell and it's not such a clear picture, Drake May holds on to the ball. He's still a second-year quarterback that really is getting his first extensive season of playing because of the fact that Brissett played most of last year, coming out of a college system that didn't ask him to run pure progression. It was half split field coverage reads, look, attack, and that's easy. Well, Mike McDonald doesn't give you that with how much he runs cover six, how much he runs different things and mugs things up. It's going to make Drake May hang on to that ball a little bit longer than he wants to.
Indeed will. And he's averaging 3 seconds with his time to throw, which is one of the higher ones in the league. So it's just kind of inherently there inside of him. Another couple donations here, as you guys are just so very kind. Dogzilla, thank you for the $12.12 donation. Why is Rob Stanton referring to New England as the Growlers?
You can ask Rob, or maybe I can ask him because Rob's going to the game.
I don't know. I'm guessing it's some bad way of referring to a Patriot fan or something, I guess. I don't know. Maybe there's some that means cheater out there in Britain.
Maybe.
I don't know on that. But thank you, Dogzilla, for the $12 donation. Well, Mookie will get you back to you on that next week. We'll make sure he asks Rob when he sees him out there. Paulie with the $2 donation says, "We are here again, my guys. Run and hit. Put this away." Amen. Definitely what you're going to see from this team is that energy out there on the field, as we've seen in every game this season from these guys. They're going to get after it. You know that. Appreciate you, Paulie. Thank you for the dono. Peter Go Hawks, thank you for the $5 donation. All 22 was saying when 48 is on the field side of the play, it's almost always zone, like 98% of the time. Got to take advantage of that and him. You're nodding there, Bryce? You got to.
Yeah, it's from the show I had with Coach Derek there of all 22 films. And when we broke it down, he specifically noted 48. And when he's into the boundary, that's where you run at because of how they play their defensive alignment. When he's on the edge into the boundary, it's the fact that they have basically a 5-tech and a 1-tech, and running wide zone kills that alignment because you get easy leverage for your line to run at. You can just wash and create your cutback lanes. But then he's saying when they put him on the field and he's playing into the field, he's an off-ball linebacker in zone and he's lost in space. Like he has no idea where to go.
There we go. And there's some things you can look at from them defensively that's a little predictable on where that team's at talent-wise, but also predictable in how they do this. They're not Mike McDonald, and they can be multiple, but disguising is not the name of their game and being multiple. And that's where it makes it to me a little bit easier for you offensively to go after this defense because of it, especially because they're not necessarily uber talented. The Snail, thank you for the $2 donation, says 27-0 Seahawks. Pats aren't scoring. Boy, that would put the legendary status on the dark side right there, wouldn't you? I mean, if you want that nickname to stick and stick for all time, you put a 27-0 game up on the books.
Yeah, that would probably be ranking as the worst Super Bowl of all time from an entertainment standpoint.
Yeah.
But
we wouldn't give up.
I would not care. We do not care.
Hey guys, I got something entertaining to share with you. Unfortunately, I still can't connect, and so my comments coming through my page I can see on YouTube, but we can't put them on StreamYard. And I just finally had to kick a guy out because he was just me, and I think we're all the same. I love a good spirited debate with opponents. Love it as long as the intelligence level is high. But once I realized you're just trolling and trying to piss me off, I'm going to get rid of you. And this guy was literally trying to tell me that the New England Patriots have owned Darnold in his career. We're talking about the Jets and Panthers Darnold, to which I replied, Seattle's beat the Patriots the last 3 times they faced each other, 9 in the last 12. And he said, what does that have to do with anything? That's irrelevant. So there's that. And then he also said Seattle's defense was average and that they were predictable and everyone knows what they're going to see.
That's the thing with Mike McDonald's defenses. They are notoriously predictable.
Right.
Yeah. You can see them coming from a mile away.
Exactly where the pressure is coming from and what the coverages are on the back end. Yep.
Talk about getting every single take wrong in a collection of takes.
He earned his boot.
Well, let's be honest here. If he was so predictable, then why didn't Matthew Stafford and the Rams score there on 4th and 10? They should have known DeMarcus Lawrence was going to run out with Kyron Williams.
Right.
If they're that predictable, I'm just saying.
He also said
he'd say fortuitous bust, Bryce. He's a fortuitous bust.
He also said the Seahawks' road to the Super Bowl was easier because they got to play the same teams over again.
That makes
Which
it
again,
harder.
when has that ever been mentioned? Thing like every time anybody would ever say that about playing a team a third time, they'd say it's harder. They never have historically have ever heard anybody reference the fact, well, it's actually easier when you play a team for the third time on a season. Am I off on that? You guys ever heard it referred to the opposite way of that?
No.
I'll be honest, as a coach myself, playing a team.
They're the best team in the conference. Doesn't matter how many times we play them.
But playing a team even a third time in a row, you don't have any edge to gain because they know what you're going to do. It's like just basically you're literally grinding 2 rocks together. That's all you're doing. And it's which rock's going to crack first, essentially. Which team is finally going to give in. That's what ends up happening in those games.
It's harder to fool them, right, Bryce? I mean, it's harder to show them
100%.
you haven't seen before, but you have 2 weeks to prepare for a team you haven't played this year. And, this applies to both teams, obviously, but you have a much more chance of installing something that they're not ready for.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, so for me, like as a coach, when I'm going in to play a team, especially in the playoffs, and it's the third time, for me to really fool them, I have to break tendencies that are generally successful for me. Things that we do well, I have to kind of deviate away from and hope what I'm deviating to is going to work, because otherwise, this is what I'll say in the third matchup games, especially when I've had to coach in them, even when I've had to play in them. You have to be so patient and just trust the process more than any other game, because it's about who can endure that patience and that stalemate longer to have the one person go out of their way to do something off tendency that might blow up in their face. So you look at the Rams Seahawks game, that was purely endurance. And what it really took, a punt return getting muffed. That's what changed that entire game. At that point, the Rams were going down the field. Seattle was going down the field. They were doing their things. It was a back and forth kind of, and then all of a sudden that type of thing, that small thing led the little bit of the momentum shift, and Seattle never really relented after that. They kind of kept it and went with it. That's where, to a point, playing different teams, it's great because they don't know my tendencies. They see it on film, but they've never felt it in a game. And so, to be honest with that troll there, Dan, that you had, he's probably a guy that was sitting at Media Row there asking McDonald 4 or 5 times about what he's going to do from the
same
4-yard line. Yeah, same energy. I swear it's probably one of those guys. Let's be honest.
Even the Seahawks Rams was three distinctly different games. The first game, lower scoring. Seahawks defense was really limiting the Rams, one of the worst offensive totals of the season. And of course, conversely, Rams defense did terrible things to the Seahawks passing offense with the Darnold 4 picks. Second game, Rams offense starts slow, gets hot, fades late, and then Nakua scores. But then the Seahawks offense gets hot late. And then in the third game, Rams offense starts a little slow, gets hot, fades late. Seahawks offense starts hot, cools down, gets hot again, and then runs out the clock in effect to win the NFC Championship game. It's no different than baseball or basketball and hockey. I mean, hockey's got best of 7, baseball best of 3 up to 7. NBA's got best of 7 series now all the way, and that means that every game has its own story. Baseball, we know that starting pitching matters a lot, but also some days you just don't have it in the outfield. Other days in hockey, you just get forechecked harder. You're sloppy with penalties, and you get on the power play too many times. In basketball, well, in today's NBA, it's like anybody gets hot from 3, the game's over. But even still, like, you get out rebounded, you get guys in early foul trouble. Not everything is in a vacuum, but because football is a 17-game season and everything is single elimination, people just kind of just see that sample size and extrapolate and think that's how it's always going to be, and that's not the case.
Everything's different. Dan, did you have a donation on your side?
I do. Again, I can't connect it to StreamYard with YouTube right now, working on getting that fixed. But Peter Go Hawks jumped over into my side on YouTube with the $4.99 donation. Thank you, Peter. He says, I'm not sure, playing off of our alternate timeline idea from earlier, says, not sure if I'd have my storybook life if Paul Allen was still here. Met my wife at our Super Bowl win, and we're married 6 years later. And they're still together 12 years later with a Super Bowl win. Not sure if that would have happened if someone would have messed with the space-time continuum. So Peter's okay with how it worked out.
Well, no, he's a real Seahawks fan, so he's like, but it would have been more an extra chat. Lose my marriage, but I get another championship. So I'm kidding, Peter, of course. Congratulations to you, man. And that's awesome. That's a good way to meet a wife, man. That's a keeper right there, as they say, gentlemen.
Indeed.
Well, as long as she's not, you're thankful, Peter. She's a fan of the same team as you. I live in a world where my wife's a Raiders fan, and it makes, as Brandon and Dan got to experience in Mobile, it makes my life a little hard and challenging sometimes.
A little tough for you this week, isn't it? A little resentment there, a little
resentment, yeah. Little resentment.
We got another donation here from Redeem Patriot. He's picking up what we're putting down. He's got Hawks 23, Patriots 13. Mic drop. Thanks, guys. We're feeling you on this, Redeemed. I think everybody's collectively about in the same area of this on their outlook of it, which is not that we are all far beyond even where Vegas has got this game as far as the point total. And we didn't softly arrive here. I can tell you that. We were turning this over and debating this last week and trying to figure out what was what, but this is just what it all seems to shake out to. Vermillion Cast, thank you for the $10 donation, Vermillion. I feel the Seahawks are going to win because the Patriots haven't played against a good offense with a lot of people to cover like JSN, K9, Bobo, etc. But Pats have a solid defense, but would have problems.
I like how you put Bobo in there over
Yeah,
like everybody
no kidding.
else. Well, you know what? After that touchdown against the Rams, yeah, you might as well just put Bobo right back in there. But yeah, I think the Patriots have played good offenses. Like Buffalo's a good offense, but also that's a game that they lost in the rematch after winning the first one. But it's few and far between. Just because they played a soft schedule doesn't mean they're a not good team or anything. They've, for the most part, beaten up the bad teams. Week 1 against the Raiders, I think, was the very definition of Week 1 randomness, because I know if they had rematched like 5 weeks later, Raiders would have been blown out. But I think that the advanced metrics are fairly accurate in that New England is a good team, but not necessarily as great as the 14-3 record suggests.
And honestly, for where they were, right, brand new coaching staff, young quarterback, young all around the roster, like they're where they are because they really hit a home run in the draft this year, and a lot of those kids contributed as rookies. I think they needed a softer schedule to kind of put the pieces in place and to get to where they are now. If they had played, a harder schedule, they might not even have made the playoffs, to be honest. I mean, maybe they would have, because the AFC was just down across the board. But you know what I mean? It's like, I think they needed that. It doesn't mean that they're not a really good team now, and it does not mean that they can't beat us Sunday. I keep trying to remind myself that. I just think at the end of the day, when you look at it objectively and you look at both rosters, it's pretty hard to take the New England roster and say, yeah, this is a better collection of talent.
The other thing I'll say too about that softer schedule versus harder schedule thing is it's about the scars you endure in those games that are tighter and harder to play in. And if you look at that Patriot run, they didn't have a lot of those. They were beating a lot of teams by quite a bit. The Denver Bronco AFC Championship game was really kind of their first test on how do we hang in these to that extent and that extreme, where it took some really bad weather. Sean Payton making one really dumb call and not kicking the field goal. Jared Stidham losing his mind and shoveling the ball away. Like, if those two plays are different, New England may not win that game. And this is where I flip it to Seattle, and I look at what they've had to endure with the NFC West competitions and the close games where they're only losing games by a total of 9 points this year, right? They had to play teams and endure longer and in closer games where it's like, yeah, you can't make mistakes. Yeah, you don't have a 2-score lead. Like, that's where I look at the NFC Championship game. Like, that literally came down again to Stafford having the ball, 25 seconds left, and he's still probably the MVP of the NFL, literally having an opportunity to go down the field potentially and win that game. And you had to endure that, and you had to not break and crack and stay as a unit. And that's where I think the soft schedule versus the tougher schedule really plays out.
Definitely a little more challenging. Only one team with a winning record they played during the regular season, being that Patriots squad. Keep it moving here, boys. HHG, thank you for the $2 donation. Says, fellas, you're on the one with a timeout.
Oh come on.
HHG, come on now.
Kneel the ball.
We see what you're doing. We see.
Kneel the ball because you're already up double digits. You don't have to run up the score in the Super Bowl. And that's the game, and we can celebrate the Lombardi Trophy. That's exactly what the HHG clearly meant. Not that the game is coming down to the 1 yard line.
No need to rub it in there. Keon Lund, thank you for the $5 donation. He says, for some reason, this team, I'm confident and calm leading up to all 3 games this year. I've been nervous at times in games, never pregame. Go Hawks. I think they do a good job, don't they, fellas? Have emboldened a lot of confidence in them, not just in the results, but as they would say, in the process and what you see them going about their business. Just makes you feel they've got their stuff together, for a lack of a better term.
And can I just say one thing too? Because, man, Patriots fans are really, really convinced that they have an elite offense and that Drake May is going to go off on Sunday and destroy the Seahawks defense, right? It didn't really start snowing hard until halftime of that AFC Championship game, right? First half, in fact, I saw some highlights the other day, and I thought it was from a different game because I'd forgotten that the first half was essentially played. It was cold, obviously, but it wasn't snowing. This is the drive chart for the Patriots, and that's a very, very good Broncos defense. I would put them, they're right up there with the Texans and the Seahawks, right? Among the best in the league. I don't think anyone would dispute that. Punt, 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 punt. Touchdown on a 2-play drive off a fumble, punt, missed field goal, missed field goal, punt, punt, punt. Now, half of those, if I just stick to the first half, it's punt, 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 touchdown off a fumble, punt. That's their first. That was before it started snowing. I think the Seahawks are going to really, really slow down that Patriots offense.
I feel the same way. I think it's going to be a tough sledding for them as far as offensively, and there's a lot of things defensively they can do to make Drake's life really hell.
I like this one.
Y2K, thank you for 31 months as I believe Hawks Nest member. Has the Barner as a Super Bowl MVP, $100 gets you $150,000. It's an interesting bet.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting bet to make. Would you guys put that down for a free $100? That's not a bad little.
I might have to drive a couple of states away and put that in on my sleeper app. That's a nice little get right there.
I was going to say he could be a sleeper contender for Super Bowl MVP if they throw to tight ends. We will not have a repeat of 49, where they're the only team in NFL history to target the tight end no times in a game. Man, if Zach Miller was only healthy.
Right?
I was going to say.
I remember the Falcons game, right? In the divisional round, Zach Miller, what do you have, 10 catches? And it was just one of those things where as soon as Darrell Bevell figured out that was a weakness, Russ just kept dumping it off to him, just over and over and over and over again until they could stop it. I would try that early with Barner.
Well, indeed, you guys are on a good transition with this. Let's give a shout out to the sponsor of a couple of our shows on in here, and that's going to be Sleeper. Sleeper is the #1 sports app running the game. Isn't it, Dan? Isn't this the best one?
It's my favorite.
It's Dan's favorite as well. And when you use the Sleeper app, sorry?
I said not just because they give me money.
No, not just because he's sponsored by him. But if you do use either of our codes, either mine, NEST, or Dan's code, Forever, they will match you up to 100%. Your first deposit up to $100. But wait, there's more. A freebie, $20. Just create a login. They'll put $20 in your account. So $120 from us to you through the Sleeper app. And you show some love to either of our two channels at the same time. We're trying to bring this home strong. Terms and limitations to apply. Please see their site for details. And yes, I know in the state of Washington, there are still some limitations. But if you are in a casino in the state of Washington, you can use the app in full. Boys, do you like my picks over on the side here? We got Myers over a field goal and a half, Kupp over 3.5 receptions, Walker over 21.5 receptions, and Hunter Henry over 3.5 receptions.
I especially like that Walker one. I really, really have been encouraged the last 6 weeks how they've incorporated him in the pass game, not just with design screens, but just with little dump offs and check downs, which Sam seems to be more willing to do. I think Walker could have, 5 catches for 60 yards, kind of an impact in addition to what he does carrying the ball.
Indeed, I do. You guys like those too, Mookie? Bryce, you feeling those picks?
I like them all. I personally think Walker's going to be Super Bowl MVP because I think he's going to have probably 40 or 50 yards receiving and 150 total all-purpose yards and a touchdown. I think he's going to go off. There's no reason not to. He's last game of his deal theoretically, right? Go off with a bang.
No load management now. Just ride.
Yep, just ride it and go.
Amen.
I like Walker over 21.5 receptions, like you said, because that would be an NFL record. 21.5 receiving yards, though, that's definitely doable. 21.5 receptions, then just give him Super Bowl MVP. They can cancel the game. I like all those bets. The only one I'm surprisingly iffy on is Kupp at 3.5 catches, because if this is a day where Shaheed shows up as a receiver, or if they heavily utilize Barner, or if JSN just goes off and it doesn't matter if Gonzalez is on him or not, then maybe Kupp won't have as big a role as he's had in the previous 2 games. But otherwise, I think everything is sensible.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm just thinking that it's going to be both Sheed and Kupp get to eat a little bit extra, a little bit of Barner with this, with some of the coverages I'm anticipating. I think Patriots are going to roll over there to JSN. Vermillion, you're so kind. Thank you for another $5 donation. Says, thank you for explaining about the Patriots schedule. Hopefully this will be great on both sides and not be a disappointment. Go Hawks. Go Hawks, man. Thank you for all of your support. Much appreciated. Janet, thank you for a $2 donation. Says, I think May runs a lot. Hope we can limit that. And we're going to definitely be getting into this here as we turn this over to the defensive side of the ball, as we will make sure we get enough time to get into the defensive side of the ball here, boys. But we're going to get into this exact thing here, Janice, that we talk about this, and this is a good timing on your donation. Thank you for it. Let's begin here as we get to the defense, and in regards to how are we going to stop this Patriot team from a conceptual standpoint. And I do think, as Janice did mention, I think that you can kind of start as a beginning ground, as you have to do with every offense. What are we going to start to take away? We can't take everything away, but what do we want to start to put at the head of the stack of what we can take away? Dan, it would seem to me that the taking of the way the legs would be at the forefront of this, of Drake May.
Yeah, I'm not worried about it in kind of a global sense. I don't think he's going to go 8 for 60 or 75 against us. The Seahawks have done such a nice job of being disciplined in their pass rush and how they come up the field, and against some really mobile quarterbacks and Kyler Murray and some of the guys that we've seen recently. Brock Purdy, certainly. Really, the only one that I can think of this year that hurt us consistently throughout a game was Cam Ward. But that was just because they kind of had to, like that. That's really the only way they could stress us, is for him to move around a lot and scramble. That's not the kind of player May is. He'll just take off and run. I don't worry about him doing that often. I just worry about in a key moment, if this game is close, him getting loose for a 20, 25-yard run to get a key first down or whatever, and get the ball into field goal range if they're that close. So I am concerned about it in that sense, just because he is that talented. I just think the Seahawks defense are going to have a really good plan. They're going to be disciplined. They're going to keep him in the pocket.
Bryce, I want to talk to you and Mookie a little bit about how we're going to accomplish this, but just to follow up to you on that, Dan, because I think you did mention about 2 different kind of performances that existed and how the defense went about their approach to dealing with those particular quarterbacks. And one of the reasons that Cam was able to be freed up is you didn't have as much of the intricate plan and play that you had for a Kyler Murray. So if you're having to kind of pick one or the other, or maybe it's a mix, what is the attack plan for Drake on that? In general terms.
Honestly, I'd like to see McDonald's blitz rate tick up just a little bit. I want to try and get some quick pressures and get home to him early and get him down on the ground. I know it's, that would be going against type. And we have seen a couple of times near the end of the year where there are a couple of games that, we saw a slight variation, maybe a 5, 6, 7, 8% increase over what the baseline has been throughout the season. I think the 4th lowest blitz rate in the league. I'd like to see him kind of turn it loose early anyway, test this offense. If they have a great answer for it, you can always kind of just go back to what has worked for you in the past. But I'd like to try and heat him up early.
So, Bryce, I'm going to have a specific area I want to go to with on this question, but I do want to bounce to Mookie. There we go. Bang. I want to bounce first to Mookie on this in kind of the same vein on that same kind of question, Mookie. Is this one where we've got to make a bit of the emphasis on this and stopping Drake? Run your defense. Run your defense? Is it either or?
Well, when I think about the Seahawks defense and the schedule they face, they have not faced a lot of super mobile quarterbacks. But they've played guys like Matthew Stafford 3 times, obviously, guys who can get the ball out quickly, even Uncle Phillip Rivers there. Hard to sack him if he's just hurriedly getting the ball out of his hand in a second and a half. But the closest comp I can think of for Drake May, whom the Seahawks have faced this year, was Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is really a fantastic athlete for a guy his size and his height. But he still got sacked 6 or 7 times, didn't he? I believe that was the case. And Derek Hall didn't play that game. So DeMarcus Lawrence came back, but the gap integrity was sound. Remember, they don't usually have a spy in the middle of the field. So, and I'm not worried about that in Drake May's instance. I believe Mike McDonald in his Wednesday press conference had mentioned that May's a guy who likes to scramble up the middle as opposed to necessarily getting on the edge. So while the gap integrity is still going to be key, if you try to scramble up the middle against a defense that has got Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy on there probably is no middle to scramble up toward. So I think that they're going to be able to contain him and be able to play their defense. They'll still have to be wary of these scrambles because they've been had before. But ultimately, I think that they'll be able to contain him. He still has a high sack rate. Even with all the scrambling he does, he's been sacked, 16 times in this postseason, which I believe is the most we've ever seen through 3 playoff games. So there are going to be a lot of opportunities for the Seahawks to get pressure on May and not let him escape. I know they've had issues finishing plays at times this year, but they can absolutely get May at least 3 times in this game.
Okay, so Bryce, the question will be posed to you in the same way from your coaching perspective. I'd love to hear it on you gotta go one way or the other. I don't know if you gave me an answer, Mookie, on the one way or the other on that. You gave me a good answer on that, but you didn't give me if I got to take a Kyler game plan or just rush my passer. From what you kind of said, I got to just rush the passer and run it true then? Is that accurate to what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. So Bryce, can you speak to a little bit about the type of what you got to worry about with Drake May and the way that he's going to exit the pocket? In that I know I think see it the same way as I do, is that there's a particular manner by which he tends to leave. And then same as this question to you, I want to know with all you 3 guys on this on Does this have to be that point of emphasis? I mean, I'm torn on this myself and asking the question. I'm not as sure on an answer of this either way on this, but just kind of seeing if there's maybe all of us are looking at this in a similar vein in that way.
So Drake May actually exits, to your point on that, Brandon, he exits the pocket how you want quarterbacks to exit the pocket, when it causes more problems for defense going up and out rather than going out the back door like we saw with Russ. Reason I say that is, as an edge, if you're a guy that likes to bail out and go out the back door constantly like Rush used to, defensive linemen tend to change their aim point on their rush, and they tend to just aim upfield. Now, with May being a guy that likes to go up and out, it's not so much about how fast you can get there, but how controlled you can be in getting there. So yes, bringing blitzes is great, but what you want to do if you're going to blitz Drake May, and we're going to, how Dan mentioned the uptick in blitzing potentially from Mike McDonald, you want to make sure that your offensive line is engaged with a guard and a tackle. Sorry, your defensive line, engage with that group. Let the center be the guy that's got to pick up that free hitter, because it can be more challenging depending on where you're bringing him from. And so for a quarterback that wants to go up and out, the biggest thing is your defensive tackles need to bull rush and then control almost the offensive lineman and wait for him to make his decision and then go. You don't want to have it where you're having guys inside stunt, like say a Derek Hall from the edge comes an inside stunt and you leave him the ability to get out. Yes, you push him out, but now you've lost contain, and that's where May can hurt you. So your ends basically want to play straight up the field. You want to control, and then you just want to basically suffocate the pocket in on itself. But you have to have that interior pressure with a guy that likes to go up and out, because he can't go up and out then. He has to go out the back door, and at that point, you've got control on where he's going out the back door. So for me in this situation, I don't want to see a QB spy. I want to see a slight uptick in the pressure, but I want that free hitter that's going to come from anywhere all over the field. It can be a corner. It could be Eamon Warrior out of the slot. It could be one of your safeties. Bring Kobe or Julian on a blitz. Like, throw some exotic type of free hitter looks at him and where they're coming from. So when you do murk up that picture for him, it's not like the D-line's doing anything extensive or crazy or a bunch of stunts, but you have him thinking enough that I can't get out that front door. Even if there's a gap there, he may be like, no, I can't go. And then you've held him in that pocket for that second for it just to collapse on itself.
Dan, you were advocating for a little bit of potentially dialing up some of the heat for in this game. Are you looking to dial up a little extra heat than what we normally had in the regular season? And then if so, is it off the back of man-based press concepts in the backside, or you want to more stay in kind of a zone-based look for this game?
I just think it's important to test their weaknesses early, right? And poke and prod at their weaknesses. Drake May's been on the ground 62 times this year. So yeah, Mookie, you said 3 a game, or you said you think they'll get him 3 times on Sunday. That's about 3 a game, right? If my math is correct. His time to throw also, when you filter it for dropbacks, right? For guys who have started most of the year, he's top 5 in the league in longest time to throw. He's not Matt Stafford. The reason Matt Stafford is so effective against Mike McDonald's defense, first of all, elite arm talent, and he can hit tiny, tiny, tiny little windows down the middle of the field. But he also makes really quick decisions and gets rid of the ball early and decisively. That's not what Drake May is doing. And so I want to do as much in that 3 seconds to confuse him as I can. And if that's, I do want to, if I'm blitzing him, I want to play conservative on the back end. Mike McDonald doesn't play a lot of cover zero. In fact, I think it's one of the lowest rates in the league, if I'm not mistaken. I want to test him early and see if we can get to him, because the other part of this, it'll be really interesting to see the plan that Josh McDaniel rolls out there. Josh McDaniels. Gosh, there's so many of these guys in the league that I can't remember which ones have an S and which ones don't. But to see what his plan is early, because Will Campbell, since he returned from injury this year, has been absolutely atrocious. And I think he's going to have a real hard time with some of our edge guys. How much help is Josh McDaniels going to give him, right? Because their tight ends aren't really built that way. Hunter Henry isn't AJ Barner. He's not, right? He's not Eric Saubert. He's not a real physical blocker. That's just not his game. So it'll be interesting to see. He's going to have to do something over there to help out Will Campbell.
Indeed. Mookie, are you on team, let's dial up a little bit more blitzes than we normally do, or stay with the front 4, trust these guys, drop 7 in space, more into that extreme?
As an overall game plan, I would lean toward blitzing just a tiny bit more, but this could be a wait and see. Like, if they're getting pressure with 4 right away, because Jeff Saturday of ESPN, former Colts center, he noted that I believe 12 of the 15 sacks that May took were with just a 4-man rush. So that if McDonald sees that, he's rubbing his hands together and grinning and maybe doing like an evil laugh of some sort, saying that, oh, we can get pressure with 4 pretty well. And even when we do blitz, we rarely blitz, but we get pressure at among the highest rates in the league. So he's got the best of both worlds. So I think they will play it conservative early. And if they're struggling a little bit to generate pressure the way that the Texans and Broncos were able to get pressure, then he'll blitz more. But I'm curious to see where they will blitz. Like, is it going to be an A-gap blitz? Are they going to do like a double mug look up front with the linebackers? Are they going to blitz Drake Thomas more because he's so good at that? Are they going to bring Witherspoon down a couple of times? How often will they blitz Eamon Mori, assuming he plays given his ankle injury? I think that strategy to me is more fascinating in terms of the types of blitzes that McDonald will bring.
I think Mookie's probably right more than I am. It's just his way is more boring.
Well, I mean, to your point, you got not only Campbell out there, but you got a rookie playing right next to him. And stunts and loops are one way to test these guys. And on the tape, you can see with them that they are very susceptible there to that stuff. But another way to do it is to overload them with blitzes, or to, I like the idea of stack box, simulated pressures, just getting him in a place of they've got to think about stuff prior to the snap that they think it's going to go this way, and then it becomes that way post snap. The more you get rookies thinking, the slower that they play. Also, I think you got to be in favor. I think you guys would all sign up to this. To me, I see these 2 tackles as 2 different separate ends of the scale and what they kind of do. One guy's got the T-Rex arms. One guy's older than dirt and can't move like he once did. So let's get the twitchy edge guys over here to this side with Uchenna and with Boye over onto the right side, the strong side of the formation, the right tackle. Blind side, let's go to Marcus Lawrence and Derek Hall and let them rotate in and out. You all feeling that?
Yeah, and even from the interior, Garrett Bradbury's a guy that when he was released by the Vikings last year, a lot of Seahawk fans wanted us to pick him up just because of name recognition, right? Because of he was a first-round pick and because of what he was, but he was let go for a reason. He was a big part of that meltdown that the Vikings had at the end of last year when Darnold got all the blame against the Lions and the Rams, but it was, 4/5 of that offensive line was showing the door, and Bradbury was part of it. And the thing with him is he's susceptible to power. He fails. He struggles to anchor sometimes. And so I'm really anxious to see that matchup with Byron Murphy against Sam Darnold's good friend Garrett Bradbury on the interior too.
So Dan, just to your point on the Seahawks and their coverages for defense, they played zone 66% of the time this year. They only played man just under 30% of the time, which is a big tell for a Mike McDonald defense on what they like to do, what they're comfortable with. And I think, again, it's something that'll pose Drake May problems. But to Brandon's point, Derek Hall is going to be Will Campbell's worst nightmare because he's got long arms and he can power rush. And that is not something that Will Campbell handles well.
Yeah, I can imagine a big game for Hall. Lawrence, I think, is going to be – he could be a Super Bowl MVP contender, especially with the way he's played this postseason. I think that he's one to watch on defense in terms of MVP voting.
Yeah, the lack of 33-inch long arm starting tackles in this league, the reason that you don't see, there's like one other guy I think with the Colts that's out there in the league that's this way. There's a reason for it. You can laugh at it. You can wonder why draft nicks like us will bring it up at the time of the draft. This is the reason for it. It shows up all over the tape. I could show you guys 5 cut-ups of sacks just in the recent playoffs alone here with Will Campbell, where it's just everything's off of the fact he's got the short arms and he just can't reach out to those guys and get it there. Let's get through a few of these donos and then just a couple last little items as we can on this defense as far as some keys from you guys with this. Peter, go Hawks, man. You've been so kind today. Thank you for all of your donations and support across the board. You've been amazing, brother. Much, much appreciated. He gives us clarity, saying growler is the lower front part of a lady in England. Jason Puckett and him were talking about getting a growler of beer, and Rob started laughing. I watched too many podcasts. I laughed my ass off. Can't help it. This is an exciting time. Hell yeah. Yeah, that's like snogging, I don't know. What is it? Like, it means a whole different thing over there, right?
The British, they use a bunch of our regular words as swear words over there.
They have fun with the words. It's always fun ways to say it though, where it's like, it isn't what you think it would be as far as like what it's referring, to. But thank you, Peter, for the clarity. You're awesome, man. And, really appreciate all of your support. Don't ever grab him by the growler, boys. You don't want to do that. Keon Lund, thank you for the $5 donation. Mike has coached 2 of the top 7 all-time DVOA teams just in the last 3 years. 2024 Ravens were also 12th. Maybe no credit is due for 2024, but maybe.
Yeah, his 2024 here kind of looked like his 2000 and wait a minute, I'm getting years. His 2022, his first year with the Ravens, was very, very similar. Where the first half it was kind of rough at times, and then they made the deal for Roquan Smith, and that helped solidify things. And then the guys started to get used to what the terminology and the communication style that he commands. And then same thing happened the first year here, right? Took about a half season to get rolling, and then they did. So that's a pretty cool stat.
Very, very cool stat, Keon. And this team wins, they're going to have a pretty special place on that all-time DVOA chart with where they've stood and what they've done to get here. That Rams game you had to play a couple weeks ago where they're ranked on that same kind of chart. So very, very cool. DVOA is always seemingly very kind to Seattle over the years. It seems like that. Peter Go Hawks with another $2 donation here. Says, you'll be okay, Bryce. You just live with the dark side.
Oh, I'm fine. I'm looking forward to living with the dark side. I'm embracing it.
It's a great.
He's been a married man for a long time.
Oh yeah, I'm well aware. I'll be okay. Don't worry. The one thing I'll say about my wife is she does love football, so I'm thankful for that. I can watch football in peace. It's great.
Well, that is awesome, and she is a good woman. We got to hang on. That was you got a good second half out there, Bryce, or up there, I should say. Well, let's start to put a bit of a button on this one today, and looking at. I'll open the floor to you guys. When we look at this defensively and what we want to do, we're talking a little bit about maybe a little more blitzing, maybe run some of the stunts, attacking some of these the weaknesses on this line that does exist with the Patriots that you can attack. Is there anything else defensively that you see that needs to be something that this team needs to be mindful of or keep at the center of their crosshairs?
God, that's tough to answer just because my confidence level in this defense is so high. The way that they're playing right now, I think it's very difficult, never impossible, especially going up against the coaching staff that we are. It's so difficult to do anything to this defense that more than once you might catch them in something, but McDonald's so good at adjusting. And one of my favorite things about the last couple of weeks leading up to the Super Bowl is a lot of this national narrative and discussion now that the shift that we're seeing with defensive coaches in this league, which, by the way, I think the coolest stat that I heard all week long is that Mike McDonald would become the first, if they win Sunday, he would become the first head coach who calls defensive plays for his team to win a Super Bowl. That blew me away.
Wow.
But the play calling aspect of it, that he's known, that he's kind of drawing attention now to defensive coordinators as play callers, not as guys, and I would put maybe Pete Carroll in this bucket, that just have a scheme and a system and they just kind of let it unfold, right? And they just kind of let the scheme just from play in, play out, those guys react to what's happening in front of them. The idea of calling plays, sometimes they're going to get you, like Kyron Williams did in the NFC Championship game, right? And we all saw the mic'd up sideline moment with Mike where he just like he called the wrong play. And I just think that's a fascinating aspect to this and I don't know if it's getting enough attention. I don't know if Josh McDaniels is getting enough attention this week because I think McDonald versus McDaniels is what really has me intrigued.
Me as well. I thought one other thing I saw on tape that I'd be interested if you guys saw, or Bryce, maybe you saw on this too, is I feel like with May, he's a lot better he's like the opposite of a Brock Purdy, where he's really good at throwing outside the numbers and deep down the field. But when he starts to throw to the middle of the field, that's in breaking routes. Yeah, the stuff that Stafford's really good at throwing those stuff, that's where a lot of his interceptions and the ball tends to sail on him in the middle of the field there. So kind of want to box him in that way.
You do. And the reason why, and this is again where I go to development of quarterbacks in college and the whole thing that we talked about down there in Mobile is the RPO, and why I'm so limited on my hype about Mendoza, for example, is RPO is generally outside the hashes where you're throwing those slants that are coming in late and stuff like that, but they're not really in the meat of the middle of the field. When you have to get into anticipating windows and teams play, like the Seahawks play quite a bit of match in their coverage, it is really hard because what you see pre-snap to what you see post-snap are two totally different things. And on top of that, match coverage causes windows to open later. So your anticipation has to be that much better of where that window will open late. And to your point, Brandon, outside the numbers, great. I can put it in a spot and it's a lot easier. Now, if I'm trying to time that up inside and I'm late, there's where your interceptions tick up. That's where you see the deflected passes and just the completion percentage drop because he isn't sure where those windows are really going to appear. It's almost like guessing.
Mookie, anything you saw else kind of that we haven't picked up here defensively that you think is maybe something to be just aware of as we close this up?
Not a whole lot that hasn't already been said. I know that Josh McDaniels loves him some screen passes, and especially quick screens to his receivers. Once upon a time, that would be a disaster for the Seahawks defense in their worst years, but they got a bunch of screen whisperers now. Nicky Manwari has won up multiple jet sweeps and screens just by strong-arming a guy who's blocking him and bringing a tackler down by himself. So anything close to the line of scrimmage, I think they will have figured out. I don't think they're going to get beaten over the top too much, or if at all. And then middle of the field, I trust that Ernest Jones is going to have that unlock along with Julian Love and Kobe Bryant. So May is going to make some tough throws. I have no doubt he's going to make some plays where we just golf clap and go, this dude is the future. Maybe New England just arrived a year too early, so to speak, and that their time is going to come eventually. But I think schematically, Seattle's defense is going to confuse New England's offense too much for them to really get into a rhythm. Like Stephon Diggs, obviously still a talented receiver who has been able to find the fountain of youth a bit, but after him, like Douglas and Booty and Kyle Williams, go Cougs, right, Dan? They're nice players. Nice players. They're on the rise, but this is a step down in terms of receiving depth compared to what the Seahawks have dealt with just playing the Rams. So again, Seahawks defense should be in good shape, and they're not going to be able to run on Seattle's defense, especially any outside zone stuff. You try running laterally against Seattle, game's up. Like, don't even try. And it's going to be a Stevenson-heavy game because I like Travion Henderson, but he can't pass protect yet. And if that's going to be a problem for him against Seattle's pass rush, then it's going to be a Ramondre-heavy game.
Dan, if your boy Kyle Williams was in this game, I'd be a lot more fearful than Mac Barefoot Hollins out there. I'll tell you that.
Hey, I like me some Kyle Williams. He was a draft crush of mine last year. Look, at least I can take some consolation in knowing that no matter who comes out on top on Sunday, a Coug is going to win a Lombardi award, whether it's Abe Lucas or Kyle Williams. Either way. I'll say this about Drake May, too, and just kind of piggybacking off Mookie's comments, because I don't want anyone who's watching this to think that I'm disrespecting him. I think he's tremendously talented. And you look at his performance this year, and we're about to find out at some point tonight whether or not he wins MVP. The NFL Honors is going on right now. Christian McCaffrey just won Comeback Player of the Year, by the way. But 5,000 yards, 70% completions, 8.7 yards per attempt. That led the league. Those are all impressive numbers. But what I see all over his tape is what you see from a lot of young quarterbacks, no matter how talented they are. Sometimes they just miss. And sometimes on a 3rd and 5, even if maybe your guy gets a little inside leverage or whatever, and he's open and he'll just miss, right? You do see some inaccuracies in his game. And you just see that with young quarterbacks, right? It takes a while to become Matt Stafford, and not everybody does. And I think the fact that we had to go through Stafford multiple times to get here, it's kind of like training at mile-high altitude for the Olympics, and then you come down to sea level, and it's easier, right? You face Matt Stafford a couple of times in crucial games, and then you go face anyone else, and you've seen it. There's nothing Drake May is going to show us on Sunday that we haven't seen recently from the guy that I think is the best quarterback in the NFL this year. And so, I do think that the Seahawks are prepared for this moment. I think they're wired correctly for it, and I think they're going to come out on top.
I love it, Dan. I think you're right on it with it. 55% completion percentage here in this with Drake, and it's just that inaccuracy will pop up. Last donation here of the day. Thank you, Taker, for that. Says, cheers to y'all. The Seahawks have the best coverage on YouTube, bar none. How soon do we have a new OC once the game ends Sunday?
Maybe there's a reason Justin Outten hasn't been available at these last couple of media availabilities.
It's interesting.
I've been saying that.
How long does it take them to interview Anthony Lynn?
10 seconds.
If they get that done Monday, Rooney Rule checked off, I really do think it's an in-house promotion, and I think we'll know by the end of next week.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, probably by the end of next week, but that's only because we're going to be celebrating the Super Bowl. They've got a parade to plan, and so it's not that they don't have the thing figured out as much as just like, we'll get around to that We got to celebrate this championship first, and then we'll get around to replacing the coaches.
Plus,
But thank you.
If they do, sorry to cut you off, but if they do
You're
go in-house promotion, they already know that they're doing that.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
it doesn't. If the announcement takes a little while to come out, it's not going to impact the logistics of what they're doing behind the scenes at all.
I'd offer they probably know regardless of whatever they're doing right now. Whoever is going to be that guy, they know it right now. There's no more searching that probably needs to occur at this point.
Because who's our competition? Like,
that's right.
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Taker. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, now that Nathaniel Hackett's off the market, I mean, there's no.
Yeah. Hey, thank goodness. Thank goodness we dodged that bullet.
Seahawks legend Nathaniel Hackett. Thanks for Devin Witherspoon, man.
Indeed.
There we go. Amen on that. Amen. You guys are very kind, though. Thank you for all of the donations and support today. Do me this favor if you can. Follow my man, Dan Viens here, Seahawks Forever on YouTube. If you haven't given him already, give him a sub up. Do the same thing here for Bryce Coutts with a Hawk's Eye here on YouTube as well. Come on, give him a sub. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. We're going to be doing this syndicate and popping throughout the offseason. Big plans for the draft. And then you can find Mookie, our man that's still beating that journalistic beat hard. That sounded weird. But he's doing that, and he's doing it well. He's doing it well. And he's over there at Field Gulls is where you can find him covering the Seahawks. He's right there on the scene. He's right there next to the players. He's shooting film from it's a camera briefcase he brought there, folks. I'm telling you, the guy's got, I don't even look at the shoe. It's got a shoe with knives that come out. And so he's got a briefcase of the camera. He got some in-depth footage of Nicky Manwari putting all of your fears, all you people freaking out there, putting you at ease is Mookie tonight. He's tucking you all into bed. He's putting the pillow up under your head tonight with that little bit of film footage. So go over there and check out their content over there at Field Gulls because he's giving you the goods when you need it most. That thing is for sure. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure to do this with you guys throughout the course of this year. It's going to be a very big pleasure to be able to do this, hopefully with you guys next week, celebrating the ultimate thing, something that we may not ever get a chance to celebrate again in our lifetimes. So let's savor this. Let's enjoy this.
Let's go.
By all means, man, let's just go get this win this week. Thank you guys for doing this with me. I really appreciate you. Thank you all for watching out there. We will be back here another week with the Syndicate. Not maybe raising Lombardi physically, but we'll be raising it spiritually. You better count on that. Back soon, but until that time, you guys better not forget. Don't you ever forget. I'm going to go 1, 2, and a 3, and we're going to get a Go Hawks, and we're going to nail it this time, boys, okay? 1, 2, and a 3, and then you're going to say it. So here we go. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Oh, goodness. We almost got it. We're getting close.
Bryce isn't feeling well.
No, it's I blame Bryce's migraine. Have a good one, folks.
Good night, everybody.